Welcome to Base2Base Military Homeschooling, the podcast sponsored by Military Homeschoolers Association. It is designed specifically for military homeschoolers navigating the unique challenges of educating our children while moving to new communities every 2 to 3 years. I'm your host, Natalie Mack, and I know firsthand the challenges and rewards of homeschooling while on the move. So where in the large world of military homeschooling are we today? Listen in to our incredible guest. Hello, I am Natalie Mack, and I am excited to be here. We are here for another episode of Base2Base Military Homeschooling, and we have an amazing guest that I'm super excited to bring her to you. Some of you may know her company and her art and how fabulous she is, but you may not. And so here's an opportunity to learn about this amazing woman, her art programs, and just a bunch of things we're going to be talking about. So I look forward to your comments, your questions, and also stay to the end because there's going to be an opportunity. Okay. So we are here today ready to roll. So we have Miss Sharon Jeffus. I'm super excited of Visual Manna Art Company. And so I'm going to let Sharon introduce herself. And I would love for her to share like why she has a heart for the military community. Sharon, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. And that just made me want to cry because my heart for the military would make me cry, But as my name is Sharon Jeffus, and the Lord has really blessed me. I have a degree in art education from John Brown University, and I was able to study at Metropolitan in Denver and sculpting at Southern Illinois University, and go on and get my English certification as well from the University of Arkansas. And I had the great privilege of being able to homeschool both my sons back long ago when there weren't many people homeschooling. And in 1992, I wrote the big curriculum. First, I wrote Bible arts and crafts, and then I wrote my big art curriculum that was used. It's multi-level. And the Lord really, really blessed it. And my husband, who was a family therapist, also a licensed minister and a dinosaur builder, we traveled around and taught homeschools and spoke at schoolers and taught at conventions. And then he was killed in an accident, and the Lord took him home. I know he's up there in heaven, and I'll get to see him again. but we had a wonderful ministry, and my heart is to really see these kids that are gifted in art and that love art to be able to be enthusiastic and enjoy learning. And visual and kinesthetic learners, even if art isn't their forte, they can love learning more because they get to do it in a hands-on kinesthetic way. So my curriculum is based in, I always think it's very important to have every lesson focus on at least one or two masterworks of art that the children can talk about. And then the elements and principles of art are also included. And then a hands-on multi-level project, because like I was thinking, I just put a thing up on my YouTube channel on the wind, and it was the wind. And we looked at Waterhouse. He does pictures of like in the day of King Arthur, and he has illustrated those books and the wind blowing, and then Winslow Homer and how he does it, and diagonal lines in art show movement, and then a step-by-step tall ship picture, very simple, that can be done by older students or younger students. And I always think it's really good to have projects that are not all the same. You want every hour of the school day, kids have to do it one way to get it right. There's only one date that's right in history, usually. There's only one way to spell a word, unless you're Andy Jackson, who said, "Pity the poor man that knows only one way to spell a word." But, and then, there's one way to do a math problem. But in art, the great thing is it's a catalyst for invention, because there's different ways that you can do it to get it right.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. And I would imagine it gives children an opportunity to really fully express themselves, in such unique ways. So,
and it's important today because we're so inundated to the internet and to things bam, they're watching things all the time.
Yeah.
So to have an opportunity for them to create, is such a good thing, something that belongs to them that they can have intellectual ownership of.
Right.
Something that's
Right.
different and unique is a really great opportunity. And that's what I really, really try to do with young people. And the military, my
Yeah. Tell us
dad,
about
my
your
dad
heart.
left.
I,
My dad
I
quit.
don't want you to cry, but tell
Yeah.
us about, yeah.
Oh, my dad quit. I had the best dad in the whole world. I would never gotten a
Oh.
degree if it wasn't for my dad because he said he gave me a stuffed animal with a ball and chain because I was an artist, typical artist, and I wanted to flit around. But
Yeah.
he actually quit high school to join World War II and
Mm.
became a flight engineer. He was very
Wow.
smart and went on to become an executive but he never really, at those times, you could do that without a high school degree.
Mm.
But he
Mm.
used to read encyclopedias, he was very smart. And he was so passionate about America and the military, and
Yes.
on my mother's side as well. And so I think it's just a privilege to be able to work with the military and the love of country. I'm
Yes.
so excited that it's becoming more important all the time.
Yes.
And
And when you reached out to me and you shared your story, um,
yeah,
I just filled up myself because, like I said before we came live, or before we started this recording, is that, we stand as, Americans, right, stand on the shoulders of those who fought in these wars. And so,
yes,
and I was sharing the experience I had recently coming through Ronald Reagan Airport here in the Washington D.C. area, and as I entered the terminal after I deplaned, got off the plane, and I'm walking, I'm hearing this patriotic music, and I'm like, "What's going up?" It's like it's a parade in the airport was happening, and then I went, "Oh, that's right, honor flights," and sure enough, it was an honor flight. And I'm just tearing up as I'm seeing the veterans getting off. Now, my husband's retired, he's a veteran. So we've lived it for 34 years. But when I look
yes,
back and I think, even with the struggles that we have gone through and living in deployments and the wars and things that he has been served in, um, when I look back to World War II, Korean, Vietnam,
right.
I'm thinking, you know, just the experiences of those veterans. And so they were coming off the plane proud, and some of them were, in wheelchairs, and others had canes, but they had a strut.
They had
And
a pride.
yes,
They
yes,
did.
yes, they had a prize. So thank you so much for your heart
Yeah.
for my fellow military community. And so we're gonna go ahead and get into this because you and I could sit here and
So we
almost cry
could.
together,
I
right?
thought, should I share this? Should I share this? And I thought, no, we only want to try to keep it 30 minutes. So I'm going to try not to.
Yeah, no, it's important. It's part of
Yeah.
you, and it's part of your passion, and it's part of why you reached out to me for because you wanted to reach the military community, you want to serve.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that, you all that we're going to get into it. So, what makes your curriculum unique? Give us a little bit about what makes your curriculum unique.
Well, I think that one thing that back in 1992, when I wrote my first curriculum and I was teaching, the Lord's given me the opportunity to do private school, homeschool, public school. And I would write my own curriculum because there were so many curriculums and they were not cohesive and they didn't include the masters. And I really felt like even if a child is a kindergarten or first grader, even if they can only do 3 minutes of having fun and talking about it, showing them the master works of art is so important. I have a friend who they lived very close to the Nelson Art Museum when he was just a little boy, and his mother, because of the air conditioner, would take them over there, the two kids, and they spend time in the art museum because it was cool. And they're both very, very smart. And he said, I think that's part of it. I think that she taught them a love for art at a very young age, and it's just part of our culture. There's so many wonderful artists. And so I think it's just really important. You don't want to bore them, and kids don't have a big attention span, but just enough. And the visual images, when you see something, I always say that's like your kinesthetic and your visual learners. You can read a recipe, and then you can watch somebody do it. You can do the recipe when you teach it. There's a benefit of actually being there and seeing these masterworks of art as you're doing your artwork, because you'll retain parts of it. And I think it'll help you in every single way to talk about these things.
That is awesome. I love that. So we're going to go on to our next questions, because I know that our viewers are already thinking, wow, let's find out a little bit more about this art program, because art is one of those subjects that it can be a little bit challenging for
Right.
homeschoolers to actually teach. I mean, I think many people feel, oh, I'm not an artist, so how can I, teach that? And I think we figured out, like, even in a subject like math, if you're not, you know, a math instructor, or homeschoolers have figured out how to find curriculum and all. That's why I thought
Mhm.
it was really important to have you on, because I think homeschoolers are always looking for curriculum in this
Right.
arena of art. And
Right.
we can feel like, oh, I can't, yeah, I can go buy some Play-Doh, I can go buy some watercolor. But after that, it's like, what else can I
Right.
do beyond that? And so your
Right.
program sounds perfect. So would you say your curriculum is faith-based or secular, or
I'm a
what's it
definite
come?
Christian. I mean,
Okay.
I really, I mean, I wouldn't, I don't do anything that would offend Christian parents. And I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and I have no bones about it. However, I really want to teach excellence, and I want our students to be as brilliant, knowing as much, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
more to art. You really do need to know the elements and principles of art, the
yes,
rule of thirds. There's certain things that do make you a better artist. And especially if someone wants to go into it as a career,
yes.
and it's just delightful and it's fun. And, I think it's really important for children to have it. What I've done is Rainbow Resources filmed me, and they've got some films, and I think I made a YouTube channel, and then also a Google Classroom. So you can go in the YouTube channel, and it has the levels of the lessons, and they're all recorded, and tells you what you need, and real fun things like Audubon and his birds for little ones, and they do flamingos, and or for older students. I think the important thing is that they need to develop their own digital portfolio if they want to go into it, and originality is so important. And I just always love to tell this story, because I was teaching, I think it was a second grade class, and we were talking about sea captains and seascapes, and we were looking at seascapes. And so what we did is we took a little paper towel roll and some different things and made a sea captain. And one of the little kids, I remember, said, "Look what I made." And actually, the sea captain became a telescope. And in the telescope, they'd glued a little tissue paper seascape. It was brilliant. And I think if you let kids have the freedom to do that and you encourage them, a lot of times if you get an art teacher that, no, that's not right, that's not right,
Mhm,
you need to teach technique, and this is how you do it. But if you want to do it a little bit differently, and children have different ages, when they're younger, when they want to start, how do I get it to look real? That's one thing. But when they're very young, they just do these delightful, colorful, beautiful pictures, or pictures that are just so much a part of them. And
right,
they don't need you to say, well, you need to do this and that.
right.
They don't need that at all. They need to be encouraged. And
Encouraged,
when
right.
you encourage them, then they just keep getting better and better, because,
Yes,
a lot if an art teacher tells you something, it'll discourage you, then it's very difficult to come, because it's part of you.
right.
You do
It's
a
part of
project,
you.
it's part of who you are.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that, with subjects that are concrete, right, that
Yes.
don't have an abstract aspect,
Yes.
um, those you can accept, oh, no, that wasn't the correct answer. But
Right.
with art, it's abstract and you're expressing yourself. And I think children are creating their
Absolutely.
art and they think it's amazing and fabulous, right? And
Yes. Yes.
and if you speak into that in a negative, harsh way or critique
It's not
it,
good. Yeah.
it can really shut down. So that's
Yeah.
a great perspective. Thank you.
Yeah. And well, and if I could add, with older students, it's a little different when you really want to get into scholarship and you want to get into the different internships. There's something called critique, and you sit down with somebody, and you critique the work each other, you say what you think, and it's really a great learning thing. You don't have to do what the suggestion is, but it's
Right.
nice to see somebody else's viewpoint. And then you can decide, do I like this? Do I like this or don't I? Do I want to do it? But so critique in that way, when it's constructive at that a certain age, then it's really appreciated.
Yes, yes, yes. So I was speaking at a conference maybe 2 years ago now,
Mhm.
and, um, at the end, there was a family, a couple of people, but a family wanted to come up
Mhm.
and ask some particular questions, and they were saying how much they appreciated it, and they had a little daughter with them who was like had this piece of paper, and she's just like, and so I was like, okay, let me give her some attention because she was trying to show me, and it was like an art, her creation that she
Oh, yeah.
had made in the children's program, and she wanted to give it to me. She said,
Oh,
I want to give you this because my mom is happy because she was listening to you, and now she says she's happy. So I want you to have this.
oh, that's
Oh
so
my gosh, talk about
sweet.
tears. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
so I'm walking.
that's so precious.
Yeah, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm walking around the conference with with my little picture and everything. And I saw her later, and she was so happy that I still had the art with me,
That's
because
precious.
children actually they do watch. They want to know you are sincere. Are you really
Absolutely.
sincere? And so it's
Absolutely.
really important. So
And
anyway,
you could always say, "Tell me about that. Can you
right.
tell me about" get them to express it.
Yeah, get them
Maybe
to
if you can only say, "Oh, my word, I love how you use the color green,"
yeah,
sincerely, and just be encouraging,
yeah.
just to get them to verbalize, and it's a learning thing.
That's awesome. I love it. Now, what about families that have multi-age children? Is this a pro- is do, does your art program, and I know you have so much that you do offer, but
Right.
do you have capability for multi-age learning?
Oh, absolutely. You can do a project like I have some YouTube videos that are specifically for kindergarten, preschool, up to about first or second grade. But then, from about third to the 12th grade, you'll do it in different levels, but they're all looking at the master works of art and
Mhm.
they're understanding technique and media. How do you get it to look this way? This is one way you can get it to look this way. So you can do it at different age levels as long as they understand that myelinization, fine motor skills are not the same for a 10th grader and a third
Right,
grader,
right,
There's no as long as you put the date and you could say, well, look what your sister was doing in third grade. You look at
right.
that now and you think you can't do that, but you know what?
Yes,
You will be able to do it. You just don't
right,
have the motor skills to do it yet. And so I think that's important if they understand that. And I would
right.
say dating things is really a good idea.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great
Yeah.
idea. I know that it's homeschoolers, and you homeschool, so we're in
Yes.
fellow homeschoolers. Um, our children have so much that we keep, right? From
Yeah.
history projects to art and all. And so it's hard to really figure out like what to let go and what to keep. But I always unfortunately I try to keep everything. That my husband said I don't think that's gonna be possible, right? We have 5 children. So but it's a part of us too when you look back. So when you talk
Right.
about dating it and all, it does help kids look back and see, oh,
Right.
this is your art from this point, and this is your art as you got older. And so I
And
think those are
right.
really great memories to
I
have.
think so too, and we can do it digitally now because I
Mhm.
remember
Right.
my youngest son did a dinosaur, and he took the bones of he boiled down the bones of a rabbit and 2 chickens, and then
Yes.
he wired them together and glued them, and that was amazing, and he
Yeah.
actually won a science competition and,
Wow.
about the dinosaur doing it, but and then my husband built the helicopter of Da Vinci with them and things like that, and
Mm.
there's no way that you can carry things around. Map board is good to use. Like we were going to do the Great Wall of China, and then we
Uh-huh.
decided it looked more like Noah's Ark, so we made Noah's Ark. That's okay.
Yes.
The idea is they're learning and they're making things and they're experiencing this, and you can photograph it and document it. But
Hmm.
if you try to keep everything physically, that's multidimensional, like sculpting and
Right.
things like that, it would be really difficult.
Really difficult. Yeah. So I discovered. Sharon. Let me see here. So we move a lot as military families. And so how does this curriculum support moving around and, you know, continuity in education? That's a big concern is,
Yeah.
how portable is this? And so what
Right.
would you say for that?
Well, I know that for the older students in my Google Classroom, it would be comparable to a half a credit in high school art. And I
Hmm.
actually taught AP Studio Art. So I
Wow.
know the
Right.
requirements in each state, not every state, but because
Hmm.
I had to write to the requirements and I wrote curriculum for the state, my curriculum does cover that. And I've taught, one of my students was in the Olympics and well,
Wow.
gymnast, and I
Nice.
taught her, and
Yeah.
she got credit in the school she was in because she had the body of work. So it
Right.
is comparable to a high school credit, and that's in the Google Classroom. Now, for the littler ones, I have tea parties that have different things in them that are fun, but it's teaching you again, always a master artist. Arthur Ratham, that if you talk about
Hmm.
Alice in Wonderland and the Mad Hatter Tea Party and the artist
Hmm. Right.
Ratham
Yeah.
and just different things like that and techniques. But and for the little ones, they're all on YouTube and they're recorded.
Nice.
So you can take them anywhere you want to go once you get into the classroom. And
Yeah.
if you decided, I thought maybe for the military, I would just charge like $25 a month just to get, and you'd have
Mhm.
the access to all of it. And I would sit down with each person and tell them my suggestions on their families, what they would want to use with their family.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that way,
That's
yeah, I
awesome.
mean,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, if the one on, I mean, I would have to charge more for like one-on-one with the gifted
Right.
kids
Right.
because the digital portfolio and all of
Yes.
that. But I mean, anyone could come into the classroom. Like if you have an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old and a
Mhm.
15-year-old, then you would
Mhm.
have curriculum for all of them that would be really fun and interesting.
That was fabulous. That is perfect. And so I'm thinking when you mentioned the YouTube for
Yes.
the younger, I mean,
Yes.
a mom could potentially do what I did over the years is that I put the safeguards on for YouTube, and then I created playlists for science and history and all these categories. And
Right.
so I had already gone through and chosen videos, and so this would be perfect. They could
Yeah.
create an art like playlist
It's very
of
child
Visual
friendly.
Manna, right?
Right,
And
right, and
that
I
would be
I
great.
have, like, almost 100 lessons up right now,
Wow. Oh
and
my.
they're, like, lessons for different age levels, but,
Mhm.
like bridges and, this maybe age 8 to, through high school on the different bridges and perspective, and it's so fun to look at the different styles and
Yes.
expressionism, and then there's vocabulary words at the end, and then there's, a lesson that's suggested, and
Yes.
so there's just a fun topics and that they would really enjoy doing, but intrinsically throughout, they learn the masters and they learn the vocabulary of the arts, which is really important. Now, if you have a student that is maybe 16 or 17 and wanting to go into art as a career,
Right.
then I would, if you want me to work with them individually and help them get a digital portfolio together, a student got a $150,000 scholarship to the Art Institute in Kansas City with a
Wow.
great
Nice.
digital portfolio and an excellent essay. And so, and there's scholarships that are available, but that requires a little extra. You
Right.
see
I would
what I'm
imagine. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
a little extra
Definitely. I
time
mean,
and
well, that's
individuality. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's definitely though I'm sure time well spent and worth paying because
Yeah.
periodically in my homeschool Natalie Mack consultation business, I actually have families sometimes ask, "Oh, I have a high schooler that needs to create an art portfolio.
Right.
Do you know anyone who could help?" And so this is an
Yeah,
amazing
definitely I could.
opportunity
Yeah,
for families to know that you are available. Obviously, there would be a fee for it, you all, because it's her
yeah,
one-on-one time. But if this is the
yeah.
direction your student's
Yeah,
going,
and I got a student that
quality.
got a scholarship in animation. I got another one that she started her own business and doing art parties and everything without that. But
Yes,
I had the opportunity to help them if they want to freelance, what their portfolio needs to look like if
yes.
they're choosing to go into the visual media. And even in the visual media, as far as filming and things like that, but whatever they need to be able to have a body of work to sell
Hmm.
their work and sell themselves as a homeschooler,
Right.
letters of recommendation, etc., then that would be, mentorship, how you find an internship, and just different things. I feel like the Lord has really burdened me to help homeschoolers because we need. I get emotional about this too.
Hmm.
We need this powerful media to
Yes.
be Christians to be in it so that they can have the effect of impacting the world for Jesus Christ and for good. There's so much awful, ugly, negative things out there, and we need to have the counter to that, which would be these brilliant young people being able to go into this as a career.
Well, I know a few families that come to mind that
Mhm.
particularly their students are interested in animation. And so you mentioned
Absolutely.
that, and I'm thinking I definitely will make sure that they get an opportunity to listen to this episode and make
Okay.
contact
Thank
with you
Sure.
because that's a specific path. And homeschooling gives you the ability to pursue specific, unique paths. And a lot
Absolutely.
of times families don't really know what needs to happen along that journey on that path. They
Right.
can see where they want to go, but they don't know. So you would be the guide. You would be the
I would,
mentor.
yes, I would love to. And, a lot of times, children that are creative gift, teens, or they're
Yes.
very independent. They
Yes.
march to a different drummer sometimes, but you think about it, if somebody comes to them and says, I want an original idea
Yes.
for a logo, they can't just, they have to be able to do that. And so that makes them independent and creative. And they don't want to do things exactly the way everybody else does them. But
Right.
in their field, that's a good thing to create an animation that's different. That's a good thing,
That's awesome.
Uh,
Yes. I love it. I love it. Everything that you're saying. I love art.
oh,
Um,
me too.
I'm not by any means an artist. Uh, some days I'm an artist wannabe, but I have great memories of art teachers throughout, my education,
Mhm.
and particularly in high school. And I think I still have my art portfolio book
Oh my goodness.
from, I call it portfolio. It probably, that's probably not the term, but it was, we had to keep, it's a black, with, blank white page. It's about this thick, and we had to create our art in there. And
Yes.
we moved through different types of art, and I still have it somewhere. And I look back and I
Oh
have
my
fond
goodness.
memories of that person. And so, yeah, so I think this is great. So the other thing I wanted to, as we come to towards the end, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about specifically what you would offer to military homeschoolers. You've mentioned it, but I just want to highlight it right now for the families who are listening and who
Okay.
are going to be checking out your website. And they're already, the wheels are turning, and they're already thinking about how great this sounds and how it will help them with their unique students and the paths that they want to be on. So what would you how would you present, and what would it be for military families who are really interested in
Well, if
this?
just for military families, I would be $25 a month, and they would get all my books in PDF, and I have teaching math through art, the core subjects through art, and then my big book, but it would be PDF format.
Yes.
Rainbow Resources still carries them. Geography Matters carries my teaching geography through art,
Oh,
etc. This would just be PDF
right.
books. But the good thing is, what can you do with a book? If you're not art oriented, it
Yeah.
might not help you. But the YouTube, and I'd be happy to send some free lessons if anybody would like to try them. But they would get to go, and I would help each family individually. But I can only do it once for $25, and I
Oh
wish I
yeah.
could do it for free, but I have to hire somebody to organize everything,
Right.
to be taking care of anything that needs to
Oh
be
yeah.
done. And
Yes.
then the Google Classroom as well, that is set up where you have assignments and you have the media. Like, how do you get an atmospheric perspective picture to look darker at the top, lighter at the horizon line, darker, the water's darker, things. How do you do a
Wow.
sunset? How do you sculpt a horse head? And these
That's
are
amazing.
techniques in media along with the lessons. Like, you could look
Right.
at Remington or Russell, learn about horses, look at
Hmm.
Remington's the Bronco Buster. And then if you have the terracotta clay or the Sculpey clay, have a little video on how to sculpt a horse head and,
Nice.
how to do calligraphy.
Yes.
But there's just and the YouTube channel, what I love is it's so interesting with different topics. And I have these little lesson artsy animals, being kind.
Mm.
That's one of my very favorites for itty bitties,
Right.
Yeah,
Right. For the
like
itty.
and they're little kids that, well, the rhinoceros, he's sort of
Hmm.
sort of chubby and he can't see well because they can't really see well.
Right.
And befriended by a giraffe who teaches him, how wonderful. It's just a sweet little thing. And then they have the
Oh,
core subjects like along with it. Would you have a little bit of math and a little bit, and like with the wind lesson, you could
mhm.
actually, I suggest, if you wanted to, you
Yes.
could do a poem about the wind. You could do a
Wow.
science lesson on the wind and then do the art and
Yes.
coordinate it together.
Yes.
A bridge can be, and on my bridge lesson, I talk about, what's a bridge to God? Jesus Christ, at
Mm.
the very, very
Hmm.
end. So you
Right.
can tie it in with so many, after you're looking at some major bridges and in bridges in different styles and learning how to do a bridge in a one point perspective, then you can go on and do things other than that. And your kids will just love it. Cause, I think learning should be fun. And
Hmm.
I really
Yeah.
want, and especially art. Art should be
Right.
so much fun. And the
Yeah.
hands on, and the kids that they'll remember and retain if they're kinesthetic and visual, what they do.
Yes. Exactly. They will retain it, especially those kids that are
Yes.
kinesthetic. So,
Yes.
oh, this sounds amazing. I'm so excited. It makes me think, oh, I want to take classes. I want to get if I had a little bit of time, but this is the hobby even for adults. And so you
It
know,
is, and I have a couple
right,
handouts that I'd be happy to share as well with outlines where you can get more information on this.
that would be awesome. So everyone that is listening, you know, I'm hearing amazing stuff here about this. And Visual Manna has been a mainstay in the homeschool art community for a long, long time.
I'm
Um,
quite old.
yeah, I mean, going to looking beautiful. So,
Oh,
um, you know, exhibiting at conferences and conventions. So I was quite honored when Sharon reached out to me because I remember in our early days of homeschooling and you all were at exhibits and all. And so I mean, I know that we have purchased some items from you, and so I was really excited that you reached out and that you were agreeable to being a guest on the Base to Base podcast. So thank
what
you
an
so
honor.
much.
What a privilege.
I appreciate you so
My
much.
dad would be so happy.
Yes.
I'll start crying. I don't
Oh
wanna do
no, no, right, right, right. Don't. And then I'll start again and we'll be in trouble.
that.
So yeah, he's I'm sure that he's very proud and we you know military connected families, you know, we love when people say thank you, right?
Oh,
For
for
your
sure.
service. And we love when people love on us. And because the life is really a lot of sacrifice and a
Oh,
lot of
it is. It really
uncertainty,
is.
right? But we serve and we do it with resilience. And
Absolutely.
our military children are considered or called dandelions, and because they just are able to continue to replant and they're just amazing kids. And so we appreciate you and we thank you. And so
Thank you
we
for
will
having me.
have Sharon Jeffus information in the description area for this episode. Um, you will be able to reach out to contact her. We will include all of her, like her YouTube channel, her website, everything that you can reach out to contact her. And and go from there. But definitely, I'm excited. And please share this episode out to your homeschool community, because Sharon has taken time to say, oh, I see you, military homeschooler, and I want to support you and love on you. And so please receive her, and please support her efforts to reach out to us specifically as a community. And so I do appreciate you, Sharon. And I thank you all for watching.
Thank you.
This is a great opportunity. And so if there's anyone that's watching that has a curriculum, or you're an organization that has a program, or you are interested in sponsoring Base to Base because you believe in this podcast and you see how it can benefit our military connected homeschool community, please reach out to us at Base2Base Podcast at militaryhomeschoolers.org. And we will get back in contact with you and set you up for a pre-interview like Sharon had. And then we'll come on and do a recording. And if you're not subscribed to our Military Homeschoolers Association YouTube channel that hosts this Base to Base, then please go ahead and click subscribe and click that notification bell so you know when another episode exists. And if you're listening on Audible, or Amazon, or iTunes, or any place, Spotify, I think, with podcasts, then thank you so much for listening there, and we appreciate you sharing out this podcast to your community. Sharon, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
It's been a great time, and
It's been a great time. Thank you.
I appreciate you.